My parents turned me into my autistic sister's backup parent so completely that when I finally left, they didn't ask if I was okay. They asked when I was coming back to help. A week later, the rest of my family found out what they'd really been doing, and that was when everything blew open. I was 6 when my sister was born. Then I got moved into the basement because she needed the bedroom closer to my parents. It smelled damp, and I'd lie there listening to everyone else upstairs like I was living under a different family. It never stopped there. My toys got given to her, then broken. My school laptop got destroyed, and somehow I was the one blamed for being careless. Every time I tried to explain, I got the same speech. She doesn't understand. You're the big sister. Be more patient. Looking back, that was the pattern. Nothing that happened to me mattered if something had happened to her first. By the time I was a teenager, I was basically on call. If my parents needed a break, I stepped in. If my sister had a meltdown, I stepped in. I stopped making real plans because my phone could go off at any second. The dumbest part is that the thing that finally snapped me was a movie. I went to see Batman with a friend and turned my phone off for 2 hours. When I turned it back on, my screen was full of missed calls. I rushed home, and both of my parents were furious. Where were you? We needed you. You don't just disappear when this family depends on you. They grounded me for going to a movie. That was when I realized they thought access to my life belonged to them. I still kept hoping they'd show up for me once. I got picked to give a speech at school, and they promised they'd come. I kept scanning the crowd for them anyway, even after I knew better. Their seats stayed empty. Later, the excuse was my sister needed something. Again, I gave the speech with shaking hands and cried the whole walk home. Then my dad and I were talking about college, and I actually got excited. Brochures, majors, campuses. Then he laughed and told me to pick something high-paying so I could take care of my sister after they were gone. I broke. I cried, then yelled. I asked why my whole life had already been assigned to me. I couldn't tell if they truly didn't understand me or just didn't care. They stared at me like I was overreacting to a joke, then left me alone in my room for hours. That was the moment I understood I was never being raised to have my own life. I was being trained to inherit theirs. So I packed a bag and went to my grandpa's house. He texted back, "Doors open." That man gave me more peace in 1 week than my parents had in years. He asked me what I wanted for my future, and I almost didn't know how to answer. When I finally told him everything, he went dead quiet. That's when I learned my parents had been telling the family my sister had professional care. They were even taking money for it. There was no caregiver. It had been me. After that, my phone blew up for a different reason. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everybody was horrified. Suddenly, all the stuff I'd been told was just how families work sounded insane out loud. We had one sit down after that, with my grandpa there. I went in still holding this tiny piece of hope. Maybe now they'd apologize. Maybe now they'd hear me. Instead, my dad looked right at me and said it. "You were born to take care of her." Everything slowed down. My grandpa went still. My mom said nothing. I heard my own breath. Then my uncle swore. Then my dad kept talking. Like that sentence was normal. I stood up and called them out for all of it. The lies, the money, the years of dumping their job onto me. Not one apology, just excuses. So I was done. I moved in with my grandpa for good. My aunt redirected the money she used to send my parents and started putting it toward my college fund instead. I'm leaving the state for school, and that feels less scary than staying. When I went back to pack, my dad took my sister and left the house. My mom watched us box up my life, my papers, my school stuff, the few things that were actually mine. Right before I left, she cried and said she loved me. I hugged her goodbye, but I kept wondering if she loved me or as the daughter who was supposed to come back and keep everything running. The weird part is I don't hate my sister. I thought I did for a while, but that wasn't really it. I hated what my parents built around her and then trapped me inside. She didn't choose any of this. They did. Losing my parents like this hurts. But for the first time in my life, I'm not being treated like an insurance policy with a pulse. I'm just me. And honestly, that feels like the first fair thing that's happened to me in years.